Today we have a HFS Profalux. I've never seen the lock before, heard anything about it. So on the front it does say HFS France, on the key Profalux. Beyond that, there's not much I can really find on the lock. There's the bitting on the key. And as you can see, we need to insert the key. You can't really feel the spring tension that's against it though. It needs to be pushed in all the way and then we can rotate the lock. It can only be turned 90 degrees or not even quite 90 degrees in order to actuate the cam. When I was looking at this lock, I noted that realistically the keyway is a circle. There's really, I'm just getting a torch, excuse me. Really not many options when it comes to tensioning. I was trying to come up with a design of a basically circular tension tool that would go in there and somehow grab the pins without binding them. But as I was looking around, I'd noted that if you look down there, just making sure you can actually see it, there's a hole. They put a hole right there. They've made this impossible to pick tension keyway and then put a hole in it. So I got a piece of a key ring. Excuse me, it's under my vise at the moment. Straightened it out and turned it into a tension tool. Let's get the lock in the vise, see how we go. Try and give you a decent angle. As you can see, I can drop that in there and now I've got lovely tension on the core and the entire keyway to work with. It's really lovely. I'm going to call the bottom left pin, pin 1, and work around clockwise from 1 to 5. I obviously have to tension and pick clockwise because we can only turn this lock clockwise 90 degrees or just under. Starting with pin 1, that's springy, 2, springy, 3, slipped off it, that's springy, 4, there's binding, oops, slipped, move it 4, 5, let's click there, number 1, springy, 2 is springy, 3 is binding, nice click, number 4, springy, 5, and springy, 1, set, 2, nice click, refill set, 4 is binding, and there we go. Now that's locked up again, and we haven't managed to turn the cam 90 degrees yet. So the lock would not be open at this stage. And furthermore, at this point, I couldn't even insert the key and either relock or continue to lock the lock because one of the pins is now hidden behind the solid part of the faceplate. So really have no option but to pick, but we're going to continue picking the lock open and call it a successful lock opening. Starting with 1 again, springy, 2, springy, 3, springy, 4, binding, seizing tension, click out of 4, 5's hiding behind there, 5 set, number 1, feel set, 2, 3's binding, 4, springy, 5, Still set, 1. Still set, 2. Binding. Let's click there, 3. Still set, 4. There's binding. That's set, number 5. Still set, 1. Good. Oh, am I picked? Let's turn the lock around. It's not working. I think what's happened is I've picked the lock over, yes, and hit the rotation limiter. So that's picked all the way now. Sorry for making you watch me pick a picked lock. Okay, so now if I reverse direction, we will once again lock up at that first open position. If I can get my tensioner in. Once again, at this point, I can't insert the key. It's key retaining, so there we go. That's locked back up. Starting with number 1. Springy, 2, springy. They actually feel set. 3. Click out of 3, 4. Binding, got to click out of 4, 5. Springy, 1. Fill set, 2. Click, 3. Fill set, 4 with binding. And there we go. So now the lock is locked back up and the key will work again. Alrighty, let's zoom out a little bit while I get this onto a tray. Alrighty, in order to start, I have to remove a little screw here. I did just receive this lock today. Literally just filmed a video on it where I was very ginger about gutting this thing because I had no idea if it was going to be a complete disaster or whatever, and it turned into quite a long boring video and it went off frame a fair bit. So fortunately for you, I kind of almost know what I'm doing this time. It's not an unsafe lock to gut. It's maybe not as simple as you think it is. It looks like, oh yeah, tubular lock, whatever. It's actually a sidebar lock. If you're familiar with a tubar, then you might be able to picture the mechanism a little bit before I get in there. I'll certainly be able to show you a bit better once I get this bloody circlip out. Oh my God. I'll find that. That's the rotation limiter along with this washer here. And now we can just pull this out. Now, I'll just pop that there for a second. And I'm going to show you the inside of the housing. And you can see that there are cutouts, peculiar shapes all along. Now that actually corresponds with the shape of the sidebar that you can see protruding on the outside of the lock here. It's 2 pieces, a split sidebar. And let's take them off and show you what they look like. So together they form that shape. Now the outside of that shape corresponds exactly with the shape on the inside of the cam there. So effectively that is locked in to the orientation of the cam. This part can't move rotationally. The inside, you'll note, has 5 little lobes in it, and they correspond with the locations of the pins. Now at the moment, if we look in this groove in which the sidebar sits, I'm hoping you can see it, you can see that there are pins protruding into it. In some cases you can see the gate in the pin partially exposed. Now what I presume is happening here is that we have a long pin. This is the face of the lock here. That's where the key goes in. So you've got a long pin that protrudes back, a spring back here. It's capped on the back here, but there appears to be grub screws underneath there. So there'll be springs underneath the grub screws, but the single long pin there with the true gate in it. And when the true gate aligns with that groove, if I put the key in correctly, then we'll see those pins move back. And now you can't really see the pins. The whole groove is open. So what that means in effect now is that there's nothing on the inside of this static sidebar to prevent the inside core from turning. So if we put the sidebar back in now, sorry if I'm rambling a bit, but I thought this is an interesting lock. I've never seen one before. And it's not your average sort of a lock. I believe it's French made, obviously, and they really come up with some interesting ways to make something simple really, really complex. All right, so the sidebar's back in there and it doesn't allow me to turn. If I insert the key, keeping the sidebar locked in where it is, I can now turn the core, sort of. As you can see that the sidebar is remaining static. There's the top slot in it, but I'm able to turn the core within it. If I take the key out, then obviously I can no longer turn the core within the sidebar. So pretty clever design, really, something a bit different. I'm not going to go beyond there. I'm not going to try and pry this ring out or take the pins out. I will show you one other thing that I've investigated, and that is, are there any false gates? And the answer is no. I can't see any features here. Actually, there is a feature in that one. Perhaps some slight tapering of some of the pins, but there are certainly no false gates. Actually, there are. Or am I just looking at the key? Or possibly mastering, because actually that is 2 true gates. Just going through, so pin 1, I see, it looks like a true gate at 0 pin depression, and then a true gate all the way down. Pin 2, I've got what appear to be 2 true gates. 3, only 1, and solid pin from then. 4, solid pin and 1 true gate, and 5 is just the 1 true gate that I can see. So that's interesting. It's either master keying, it could be master keying, or it's actually some false gates, but it does appear that the sidebar would be able to drop into the other gates. So they do have some serrations in them though, so perhaps they would hang it up. In any case, I've rambled on for long enough. That was the HFS Profalux. Anyway, thanks for watching.